So,
I don't know, I feel more comfortable if I sit. Is that okay?
yeah,
Sure.
that's okay.
Yeah.
So how I put the video on you while you're eating?
No, thank you.
Okay. Oh, and one more final thing, just as a courtesy, if we could put our ringers on silent, which we have people here, I would appreciate that.
I did for me too, so. All right, so I guess I can start now. Okay, I'm Robert Gallant. I'm the owner of Detectall. I've inspected sewers for 20 years, like 19 years and 11 months right now. Okay, so background, I took mechanical engineering technology recently, but I really didn't plan on doing this in a way, and sort of worked out that way. I was a rep. We were selling camera systems and training people how to use cameras as well as replicating equipment. So at that time, it was basically a pioneering product, right? It's like, wow, a camera that's locatable, that's a great feature, because we're able to go in there and see, but then tell you exactly where to fix it. So that was a big feature at the time. They actually just came over with white LED lights at the time, which also changed the dynamics of inspecting small diameter sewers. So, because originally it was always black and white picture, and it was red LED, so it was always black and white. And it came over with white LED, and before that changed things big time. So I was there right at that edge of advanced inspection of sewers, small diameter. So anyway, so for 4 years I worked for another company. I was doing, started the division of pipe inspection and locating. And I ended up leaving that company and started my own company in 2000. Right, so 20 years experience. I know sewers big time. My knowledge doesn't just stop with lateral inspections. I also have robotic camera quality made by high-tech here. We can go into large diameter pipes with robots. We drive through the sewers and the streets. And we
You do that in the city, I guess,
yeah,
eh?
I do that all over Nova Scotia. So I travel, yeah, so.
You're making?
Yeah.
Oh, it does? I don't know like that. What are you doing? I'm wondering, closer.
How do you know that?
Yeah, it came up. I did a connection with Monica. She did that.
Rob, would you be okay sitting here?
Oh, sure.
Oh, maybe they can't hear. It's up or something.
All right, so where's the mic?
It's in there.
Oh, is it? Okay, well, I can sit here too, then.
Wherever. Yeah, that should be fine.
Okay.
Okay, that's fine now. Thank you. Okay.
Oh, Monica, thanks. Okay.
You good?
Now you have the connection too.
So yeah, so I have a really good understanding of sewers right from the laterals. We call the pipes from the house to the main, we call them laterals. Some people call it service connections, government stuff or whatever. So I understand those pipes as well as how they interact with all the sewer mains upstream. Okay, so it really doesn't just stop in the laterals. Okay, the mains also can affect whether or not a pipe is going to work or not. So it's also good to know when you're doing a lateral inspection, what to look for in the main as well once you reach the main, right? So anyhow, okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you sort of a history of sewers, okay? So let's go back, say, 100 years ago, okay? So that's far enough back to cover any pipe that we have around here, anywhere in North America, okay? So back then they were using a pipe that was made of clay, right? Just like the pottery, okay? They made them, they cast them in a big oven, and they would come in 3-foot lengths, and they would push those together. They'd be like the hub, which is that larger part, and then they'd have this piece like just a regular size. They'd fit that inside the hub, and they would grout around that. They'd use like a mortar kind of thing, and that was how they sealed them to keep the roots out. Well, over time, what would happen is that grout would disintegrate. Or depending on how thorough the guy was on that particular installation, maybe there was not much growth or maybe there wasn't any growth. Okay?
So it varies. I've gone into places where they were really crazy with the growth, and today there's so much growth you can see it actually coming into the sewer, and it cuts off the sewer sometimes a little bit. Right? Usually isn't an issue, but sometimes it can be, right? So.
We can still find those today.
Oh yes, we have plenty of those. So.
And would that be more in the city than obviously?
Old city.
Old city.
The old city, like so old Halifax.
Right.
So you're talking the peninsula.
Yeah.
You're talking North End, Halifax. Yeah, oh yeah. South End is full of clay. So any house, if you just think about that, any house that is 100 years old is going to have clay. And it's also going to be clay right up to about 1950, 1940-ish. So anywhere up to 1940 is going to have clay pipe. Okay? So let's go back there again. You don't want to forget the P-traps. Yeah, he's seen them all, right, with me, right? So basically, these older houses, prior to 1920, we had P-traps. They're called main running traps. They're at the front of the house. Halifax is full of them. Okay.
So you're calling them P-traps?
They're actually they're a U-shaped pipe. It's like if you look underneath your sink and you see that U-shaped trap. Well, they had a main U-shaped trap at the front of the house where the sewer left. Now, back then, right up to actually about 1970, late 60s, all inside plumbing was cast iron pipe. Everybody knows about that. A lot of things are being said about that now. Insurance companies are actually, questioning the owners, the homeowners now, saying, how much cash do you have in that house that you're buying? It's becoming an issue, okay? At least in their eyes, it's definitely an issue.
You know why?
Because cast iron eventually just rots out.
Oh.
It disintegrates. The bottom usually go to them. So, and there's other things associated nowadays with the low flush toilets that are being introduced, and the aggressive toilet papers are conflicting with the cast iron pipe that's out there. So, at the end of the day, what's happening is people are having sewer backups. So then the insurance companies are starting to recognize that. And that's probably why they're asking about, well, how much cash do you have? Yeah, because eventually it's going to leak, right? So anyway, so either way, so we have the clay pipe. Okay, so clay pipe, in my opinion, from all the videos I've done in sewers, clay pipe is a good old tough pipe. Like, the stuff is going to last probably another 100 years. I mean, this stuff is amazing. They had a 100-year design life on it. We're exceeding 100 years and it's still ticking. Yeah, it's a product that just doesn't change unless somebody does something to it. Like if somebody installed it improperly and there's a big rock on it, right? Then that could affect it, right? But it is quite a strong pipe even to this day. If it wasn't damaged or if roots didn't get through the joints, then that pipe is still good to go, right? Yeah, definitely on a residential scale, okay? If you're into industrial plants and things like that, where you have high chemical and this and that, you're gonna have other associated problems with it, but we're not worried about that in this realm that you guys should deal with. So now the thing to worry about with clay is roots mainly, and also possibly damage, but usually it's to do with roots, okay? Clay pipe is usually in where? In areas, residential areas where they're older, so therefore there's trees, right? So then you're going to basically worry about tree roots. Now, not always do we have tree roots. I mean, it's funny. You can go to one end of the street, and there could be roots on that end, and then on the other end, there's no roots. So it's hard to nail that one down. So, but 50% of the pipes I video are in need of repair on a pre-purchase. 50%. And that goes by any kind of pipe that I video. Because we're just talking about clay now. So now after clay, we go to, let's go to those P-traps, those nasty little traps. Okay, so you can just picture your sewer, okay? It's all trucking through the house, all going there. All of a sudden it's got around this U-shaped pipe. What were they thinking, right? Okay. So those are just trouble to begin with, and the bottoms can go in them because it's got water sitting there, always sitting there, right? So the bottoms, they can go in them, Also, they get buried under the floor or whatever, and people don't know where they're at. So on a pre-purchase inspection, you might want to identify whether or not you have a P-trap and where is it, okay?
What was it, 83,
1920 and before. So 1920, they discontinued the use of P-traps. How you guys can tell whether or not there's a P-trap without even you calling me, by the way, my call to me is free. My information is free. I want to help you, help your clients, and everything is better, right? Everybody wins. So basically, if you look at a house and you see, do you ever see that pipe that comes up out of the ground and then it's an upside down U? Did you see that? Yeah, it's a cast iron pipe and it comes up out of the ground and it goes like that.
And where would you see that?
At the front of the house generally, and usually, you know, in some of the places underneath the porch. But in some places, they don't have big elaborate porches, like on some of the houses. You see the older houses, they have the big elaborate porches. But sometimes you just see them sticking up out of the ground, right next to the foundation. And that there represents whether or not there's a heat trap. Because that's called the fresh air inlet for the house. So that's sticking up out of the ground. So what you want to do is look underneath the porch, look there, and you know where to look at. So you look under there and you go, oh, there's that upside down U-shaped, yeah, okay, well, there's a P-trap in there.
Are you saying P like this?
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's not spelled that way, okay? It's Mr. P, right? Okay. So.
Oh, it's just the letter P.
Yeah. So in the industry, it sounds like that.
You know, sewer.
I'd be sending him an email saying,
Don't have that contract.
So anyway, so that's in my opinion, if you're going to buy a house, if your client's buying a house, then you want to identify whether or not that's going to have a P-trap in the house. Because that P-trap can cause lots of havoc. Because the traps can clog. They just clog up sometimes. What's going on, you know, with cast and these P-traps and all this stuff is that we're starting to use aggressive toilet papers. It started with, geez, I don't know if I'll get sued or not, but it started with Charmin toilet paper. When that showed up on the market, then the chaos began. Right?
Is it because it's thicker?
Yeah.
You know, and then there's like the fresh wipes.
Oh, that's a whole other.
Now they're trying to get,
yeah.
Parts about,
Yeah,
should
that
burn
are
your roof.
biodegradable.
Oh, yeah. Nasty.
Oh.
They'll cause backups too, yeah. So when they say
so will
that,
baby wipes.
oh, yeah, 100%. Yeah. So the governments are actually having big problems with those wet wipes. Yeah. They get into the pumps and the pumping stations, and they have problems with the pumps. Not good.
When I lived in Korea for a year, you weren't allowed putting any toilet paper into it. It doesn't matter. So think about that. So you use toilet paper,
I don't want
and you're supposed to put it in the wastebasket.
Yeah.
Because they
That's the
couldn't.
way it is.
Well, I would.
They couldn't hold any of it.
Yeah, I would say that's probably, it could be that their sewer systems may not be really set up for that.
Yeah.
It could be, you know, so, yeah, I can imagine that's how bad they probably were.
I didn't follow.
So where we're at there is, okay, P-traps, you want to try to identify whether or not there's a trap in the house. Another big thing that's happening now too is back water valves. There's called the one-way flaps.
Let me back to that P-trap. If there is one, is there a way to remove it?
Oh, yeah,
Or
it's
just-
called digging, and it's about $1,000. So this is why you want to identify whether or not you have them to begin with. You know, because then all of a sudden, what will happen is your client will buy the house, a month down the road, the P-trap clogs.
But can you
Right.
go in with your camera to
We
see
can
what,
identify where they're at and locate it precisely where they are.
and whether or not they're in good shape or not good shape, or can you?
They're 100 years old. You know, they're over 100 years old. They're 100 years old. They're not in good shape, right? They should be removed and replaced with a back water valve.
oh, Richard, have you guys, like, written that in, have that kind of closing, or, yeah?
Yeah, we found it on and older garbage down there.
Yeah.
They got called the problem that you can actually get through the P-trap to actually scope them on. It's a lot, but sometimes you can't get through it. So then you don't know what you're looking at. You don't know what the rest of the line is like.
Yeah.
Then what you do is that.
Well, what I do is like I have a miniature camera, I have different cameras for just about everything, right? So I have a mini cam that actually will go around traps, but I need to be able to get access directly to the trap. Okay, so It has to be set up in a friendly manner in which I can then insert the camera through the trap and around and then set the pipe out, okay? But what happens sometimes when I show up, because I never know what I'm gonna, but I mean, this is where we educate the agents so that you become more understanding of what to look for in the house and things like that, so that we can do a better job for your client, right? So, for instance, I may go in and then, we have to use another clean out, so we run the camera down, we identify where the trap is, or what I do is I just go into the house and I just scout everything out right quick, and okay, there it is there, and then we do it, we get busy, right? And if I have to access the trap, I do the video outside, but we also know that there's a trap. We warn people if there's a speed trap, right? So, and I always suggest to take them out or whatever.
So some people don't. He was on vacation a couple summers ago, and I called, get someone else in there. There's an old house on down Central Halifax. We got in there, and they said, no, you got. See you later. We're not doing it.
They wouldn't do it.
No, and they didn't have a smaller camera,
So,
so they charged me $250.
oh, God.
Yeah, see, that's just nasty.
And do you get every house,
Every single one. Well, I called him, so what happens is, it doesn't matter, we have a client buying, I'll call him and say, what do you know about the neighborhood? I would say, well, I know this, that, and that. Okay. Usually, I'd say 90% of the time, they'll end up getting it done. Because even on new homes, construction, right, still find issues.
Yeah.
So I'd say, I don't know, maybe 10 to 15 of these that we have.
like in the city? 'Cause
All over the place.
Lots of time, but I mean, like, always, if there's a septic, like in the
We
rural
always get
area,
sewer.
we always do, yeah, absolutely. But we don't think that so much about that in the city.
We do it all the time. We budget all of our buyers to get it done. I recommend everyone get it done because we have found so many that it's,
And so how much is the, and this might be off topic, I apologize, but, how much is, how responsible is the city? Like, how responsible is?
We're gonna get there.
Oh,
This is gonna be all a part of this presentation,
Okay.
right? So we'll go from the clay now, okay? So I'm gonna go into history here. So older houses like that, you gotta worry about the cast iron pipe, right? And you gotta worry about, okay, the P-trap,
Yeah.
okay? And then ultimately that pipe outside, which is the clay pipe, and then generally what can happen with clay is roots, okay? Or else possible just damage. Sometimes you get in there and the pipe is damaged, but most of the time it's roots, okay? So definitely an old house like that, you definitely want to get a video, right? So then after that, okay, they went away from clay and they introduced another product that was similar. It was concrete. It was actually cast concrete. You mentioned in where you were from. Yeah, where they have concrete pipe over there. So we also introduced concrete pipe here in the 1950s. And we used that, well, it's maybe about 20 years. So, like maybe 1940. They were sort of switching from clay to concrete. It must have been probably cheaper or something, right? People just don't switch for no reason. So there's probably a financial thing going on there where they switched over to concrete. Concrete is the same scenario, okay, roots, possible damage, okay? So now once you got into the concrete pipe, then you're getting away from the P-traps because it was in the 1940s. So remember, 1920s and older is P-traps, right? Okay. So then they went from the concrete.
1920s, or I mean, yeah,
And older, 1920s and older P-traps.
Yeah, okay.
How you identify yourself where they're at is you have that U-shaped pipe at the front of the house, outside, hugging up against the foundation wall, looking under the porch. You got to check that porch out, right? And then you're going to know. You can ballpark, or you ask them how old is the house, when was it built. Sometimes they're off, right? So but it's always good to just check out the porch and see if they got there, right? Or you can call me. You can say, hey, I got this house over on this street over there, and I'm pretty good at knowing where everything's at around here. So then they went from the clay to the concrete. Concrete's still tough as nails. I don't like it as good as clay because clay always stays smooth. The surface is smooth, so less friction, huh? So for sewer, concrete's wear. They were just more. It's like a sidewalk. When the sidewalk gets old, exposes the aggregate. Okay, it gets rough. It also creates friction inside the sewer. And there's also offsets too. There's natural offsets of the clay and the concrete pipe that usually aren't too bad. I don't usually see issues with them. But they used to actually, when they made the clay, they used to actually know that there was going to be an imperfection there, so they actually put a put a 45-degree camper on the edge of the pipe where it leads up to the next one to compensate for that. And it actually worked pretty good. So you'll always see a little bit at the joint, but usually that's never an issue. Okay, so anyway, so then after the clay or after the concrete, they went to no corrode pipe. That's a nickname. Okay, you've heard of the name no corrode?
No corrode?
Yeah, call it the nickname is no corrode pipe. Okay, now that's just a coined name around here. That was I tried to figure out why they call it no corrode. So the inspectors, all the old inspectors, all retired now. But they said that yeah, Robert, we called it no corrode because it wouldn't corrode. It wasn't like cast iron pipe. It wouldn't corrode. I said, oh, okay then. But the actual real name of it was originally it was called Orangeburg Pipe down in the U.S. And the company actually was called Orangeburg Conduit down in the U.S. They started that in the 1800s, and they made that as an actual conduit, electrical conduit. It was made in an oval fashion, and it was only ever designed to pass electrical wires through. Okay, but it was a huge company. They actually owned Union Electric, privately that supplied all the power to New York. This was a huge company. Now they had their own baseball team, right? So company. So this company, when the 1950s hit, there was a big, huge baby boom. Okay, big building construction boom. Okay, so they decided, hey, let's sell some pipe instead of conduit, and we're going to change the shape from oval to round. We're going to have an ASTM approved as a sewer pipe, and then we're going to sell a lot of this stuff, right? And it worked. So, but it didn't. No, it failed for 10 years, right? So because it just wasn't good for water. Huh? It was made of 10 layers of spiral round tar paper. That's made of a wood fiber tar paper. It's made of 10 layers of spiral, and it was compressed with a water-resistant glue. Okay, compressed nice and tight, and then dipped in tar, and then baked in an oven. And then that was ASTM approved. They did age testing on it, you know. And I read the specs and everything because I'm into my job. I want to know what's going on, eh? So anyway, so the spec said that this is how it was made, and then supposedly it was going to last this long. Well, it didn't at all last anywhere near what they thought it was going to last. The product started to see failure in the first 10 years, and it was actually pulled off the market in the U.S. It was banned across the world. It was done. They were done. I think the company went under. Yeah.
There's some here.
Oh, there's plenty here. So this is where we're getting to it. That's the history of how this pipe was made. Never really intended for sewer, but certainly got past this one. And then it sold like wildfire through the U.S. because it was so cheap. Right? We had this new baby boom, new construction. Wow, we don't have to put this labor-intensive concrete pipe together anymore. It cost a fortune to ship. It cost a fortune to make. The labor was intense. Wow, they can take this pipe and this one guy can throw it off the truck and bounce around and it doesn't even break. Wow, this is the great stuff. Eh? The best thing like bread. So, but unfortunately, when the water hit it, then the water would wear off the tar layer, and then it would start to get into the wood fiber, and then it would actually delaminate. I call it delaminate because that's what it does. Basically, the water got inside, in between the layers, and it would swell the wood fiber, and then bubbles would form inside of the pipe. So if you have a pipe this big, and then all of a sudden the pipe's starting to close off like this, where's the sewage going to go? It's going to go back into your house. So that's basically what happens, and it just got pulled off the market. But from around here, like, you know where Joseph Howe is, Joseph Howe area?
Yeah.
Okay, down there, it was, like in those areas, it was introduced earlier. It was introduced actually in 1955, a little around there. So we've seen that hit the market here in early 50s, mid 50s, okay? And there's patches, okay, of the older. Now, when they first introduced it, it actually was a larger diameter, right? So those areas actually are still faring no better than the stuff that was released that was 4-inch later in the 1960s. Okay, so it's still a bad pipe, but because it had more room, the sewage could still fit through and keep going, right? We still have lots of that. So it started in the 1950s and then carried out right up until 1970. So we've got 15 years here of use. So everywhere you go.
Widespread?
Oh, widespread, yeah,
Oh.
widespread. Everywhere in Nova Scotia, everywhere in North America. It's all over the place. Right? I can go to different towns. I deal with different towns and municipalities in Nova Scotia. I go down, for instance, I deal with the town of Antigonish. Go down there, routinely deal with the sewers. I go down there, no corrode. Go beyond it, no corrode. Go everywhere, no corrode. Okay? In the time era, right? You got to think about it as sewer, as a timeline, right? So if you know the age of the house, you know what kind of sewers are out there.
So from 1955 to 1970, if you have a house that was built in that time, there's a big chance.
There's a very good chance, probably 90% chance that pipe's going to be no corroded, which is that nasty, nasty pipe that everybody talks about. Now, there's a big misconception with agents. The main thing that I hear from an agent is, oh yeah, I know about that no corrode. Yeah, that's in Woodlawn. You can believe how many times somebody says to me Woodlawn when they talk about no corrode. Yes, it's in Woodlawn. Yeah, it's also in Fairview, Clayton Park.
Yeah.
It's wherever the house was when the house was built.
Yeah.
That's where the no corrode is. And these neighborhoods are just happen to be plumped there at certain times in history. So therefore, that's why you have the no corrode pipe. That's the pipe that was available at the time, right? So then, luckily, not luckily, but luckily it only lasted 15 years, right? Then that was taken off the market. You couldn't even buy it anymore because it was a complete failure. So then they went from there. They had a problem though because they didn't know what to use, right? Because we were just sort of phasing in plastic pipe at the time. Plastic was very expensive, right? The early use of plastic was high in price. So they were trying to figure out what are we going to use? What are we going to use instead of the no corrode? Well, they had this thin plastic pipe. I've got examples on my hard drive here of all of these pipes that we're talking about too, by the way. We can go on there and look at them. But basically, they started introducing another pipe, and I call it thin wall plastic. I mean, some people call it sono tube or whatever, but it was basically a very brittle, thin plastic pipe. And the problem with that is that, geez, they couldn't even install that without breaking it. It was so thin. So basically, right from the get-go, that we only saw that for about 5 years or so. There's not a lot of that around. But there are definitely patches out there of this thin wall plastic. I just did one last night at 7:30 at night on Rob Lee. You know where Rob Lee is in Woodlawn? Rob Lee. It's off Spring Avenue. Okay. It's in a sort of a newer, Spring now would be no corrode. The older part of Spring Avenue in Woodlawn is no corrode. And then up off of the Spring there, you've got some newer streets. And that would be just at the back end of the no corrode where they were using the thin wall plastic. The problem with that stuff is it was so thin that it would split and it would crack and roots could come in. The one I did last night there, what it was there's a tree on the lawn, and adjacent to the tree was the pipe, and the roots, the pipe was so thin that the roots actually choked and actually cracked the pipe, and then the roots came in and there was like this big thing of root there, okay, and that's what was causing that. So we ended up with the plumber that I was with that night there last night. He had the capability of actually cutting that root out. So while I was there, I said, okay, use that specific cutter. We went in, we cut the root out. Bang, he's good to go for about 5 years at that point, right? So, but anyway, so they used that for a while. So 1970-ish in that area as well, they were using that thin wall plastic. You want to know if they have that too, because I mean that is not as bad as no corrode because it didn't delaminate, but because of the nature of the pipe, it's highly likely that there could be damage with that. So I'll show you an example of that on there. So after that, okay, now we're starting to get into plastic pipes, at that time. So, but that didn't work out. So it just so happened that, okay, at the time, they released another pipe, and they call it transit pipe, okay? Transit, but actually the real thing, the real product is asbestos concrete. That's what it was made of. It was an asbestos fiber concrete mixture, okay? Now you're saying, wow, that doesn't sound like a good idea, right? No, it probably isn't, okay? It was actually banned. It didn't last long. It lasted for 10 years on the market here. And so anywhere from 1970, 1980, we have a lot of asbestos concrete pipe. Now, it actually is pretty good pipe as compared to the old Note Road or whatever, but it also has its own issues, okay? Every pipe does, right? So this particular pipe, instead of using because they didn't want to return to the concrete, the heavy concrete, because it was so expensive. 2-foot lengths concrete, it's so labor intensive, expensive. They said, well, we can't go back to that. It's too much money. And then this company, I think it was out of Quebec or whatever, they said, hey, we're going to make this concrete pipe. It's going to come in 10-foot lengths, right, primarily. And we're going to have gaskets on it. And it's going to be, hey, no roots. So they actually had flyer. I actually read the flyer. I don't have it here, but you go online, you can find everything, right? So they had a little flyer saying, no more roots. Asbestos concrete pipe, way to go, right? You know, and it was the propaganda stuff that they were putting out at the time. And unfortunately, it didn't keep the roots up, okay? So the roots would come through the joints. The gaskets just didn't seem to hold together there, and the roots would come through the joints. Also, it lost its shear strength. Concrete absorbs water. After time, concrete absorbs water, okay? It weakens the pipe, and then cracks form. So the main thing I find with asbestos between 1970 and 1980, primarily houses, is that roots come to the joints and also the shear strength, so you're going to see cracks, you're going to see offsets. Okay, cracks aren't so big of a deal, right? As long as the sewer keeps traveling, the sewage goes through, keeps traveling, then that's not a big deal. Who cares what the sewer really looks like as long as it actually carries the sewage from A to B to the main, right? Nobody really cares. Oh, well, I got a little crack in the pipe. Who cares? As long as it doesn't affect the sewage, right? Now, if these cracks become, you know, we call them fractures, become cracks which then become offsets, then there's a problem. If there's a serious offset and if it's in the wrong way, then the sewage can't jump up and get into the next pipe. So then that can become a problem in the backing up stage of the sewer. So obviously you want to check those pipes, right? You know, that's a good idea to check those because we know that they can become waterlogged and they get weak and there could be roots and there could be offset. Yeah. Oh, let's talk about the, in around that time, the building code changed, okay, in the 1970s and 80s. There was a new building code that was introduced so that every house, okay, the government thought it was a great idea that, hey, we're going to make sure that every house has a clean out at the property line. They said, wow, now we're going to know whether or not it's our problem because we're going to get to the point where, okay, who's responsible for what, okay? So basically they said, okay, we're going to make it mandatory so that every house, okay, has to have a clean out at the property line, and the builder must provide that in the building of the house. It's mandatory. So they said, that's great, because now we're going to be able to check the sewer from the property line to the main and see whose problem it is if there's ever a problem. It sounds like a great idea. I totally agree with it, except that our climate doesn't allow that to work out. So they did ban that. They stopped it after they realized that that's not a good idea. But we have this bunch of pipe out there, primarily the asbestos concrete, that have these cleanouts at the property lines that everybody doesn't know or they forgot all about, okay? And what happens with our climate is we have the freeze thaw, and the freeze, the frost, actually takes that pipe and it slowly, 1 millimeter at a time, pulls that pipe out of the joint. And it just starts to come up out of the ground. And so if you drive around in some places like Sackville and stuff that's full of those cleanouts, is you see this pipe sticking up out of the ground and you wonder, what's that all about? What's that? Well, that's somebody's sewer waiting to back up is what that is, because they don't realize what that is, right? So basically what would happen is the pipe would heave out of the ground, it would disconnect, and then the ground starts coming in. The ground falls in, causes the sewer back up. Bang up. There's another claim, right? All of these things lead to big claims, big sewer backups, big money, big mess, big claims, insurance going up. Okay, so the insurance companies don't really know a lot of stuff I'm talking about here. You know, they just know that sewers back up, and therefore if there's more sewer backups to the point you're gonna have to, they go up and then your insurance goes up, okay? So that really, I should be in there talking to the
Yeah.
insurance companies.
And do that for us,
Right, yeah. So, but anyway, so then we have all of this phase of these cleanouts that are failing, they're even up under the ground, and then there's a whole other aspect, so.
And was that 1970, 1980s, you said?
That was, yeah, around the 70s to 80s.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question? You know, like, I mean, it sounds pretty like self-explanatory, but what is it?
And where do
It's
you
an
find it?
It's an access to the sewer that's made so that you can check the sewer. Either you clean it out with a machine, it's just an opening of the pipe.
At like the
So-
property line?
So it's where the pipe connects?
Actually,
The main-
I don't have anything to draw on there, but,
Oh,
There's a flip chart there.
okay, oh,
yeah.
great, excellent.
there's a green one there.
Oh, I just hear that word all the time, and I don't, like, I mean, I know that I got now.
Hey, I didn't want to win any awards in ours, so.
Yeah.
All right, have you ever gone along the street and you'd see green marks on the streets?
Yeah.
Green paint?
Yeah.
Green is code for sewer. That's why you see green paint, right? Yeah. So I got a green marker, isn't that great?
Yeah.
Set that up, actually.
Yeah, thank you. So basically, okay, so here's the house. Right? Here, okay, here's the sewer coming under, here's like the foundation. Right? So, yeah, here, okay, the sewer's coming in here. Okay, this is the streets. So let's say here's the property line, right? Okay, so you've got this cleanup coming up like that, it's like a straight T cleanup. Right? And here's the main on the street. Sewer main, right? So at the property line, they'd have this cleanup. So between 1970 and 1980, there's plenty of another thing. Okay, so unfortunately, here's the surface of the ground. Here's the cleanout, maybe without a top on it. Right? Yeah. Right?
So it wouldn't be above the ground, it would be
Yeah,
above
oh
the
yeah,
ground?
well, look, some of them heave right out of the ground.
Oh,
They
okay.
start to grow, it's like the pipe is growing, you know,
Because,
on
yeah,
the
okay.
lawn there, and then some of them don't even have caps on them because they got knocked off or whatever. Some people go, well, I don't know what that is, and I'll throw that in the dirt.
Yeah,
I'm gonna pull that pipe, oh, it
Yeah.
feels loose, because it is, it's not joined up anymore, so they just haul that right out, they fill that in the dirt. Now, sometimes immediately that will cause a backup, or it just doesn't sometimes the dirt just sort of packs there, it's just sort of sitting there, and then the roots come in or whatever. Basically, it's just a ticking time bomb, is what that is, right? So when I get phone calls, okay, in Sackville, okay, saying, yeah, geez, I'm experiencing a problem here, and, you know, and I go, okay, was the plumber in? Yeah. He thinks it's about 30 feet out. Oh, okay, I pretty well already know what's going on there, right? Because I know the area, I know what kind of pipe it is, and I know the chances are 30 feet out, that's the property line. We explain that, okay, well, probably that's what it is.
But they're underground.
They can be,
Typically.
they can be, well, and originally they would be flush with the ground, okay?
Right, okay.
But.
When it was made, they would
When it
have
was
flushed
made.
with the ground, or just
But maybe
underground.
not. I mean, it depends on, you know, some people might have said, you know, oh, I don't like that, it's ugly, I don't want to see that. So then it just varies, right? Close it over. Okay.
So would it be easily identifiable if you were looking for it, you're walking up to?
Yeah, what do you mean? It's always good to look in the lawn, right? And
Yeah.
around the property line. Where they're gonna be at is the water shut off. You ever see those metal things on the ground?
Oh, yeah,
They look like this.
I always wondered what they
Yeah,
were.
like that thing there, so right?
Yeah, I know.
Okay, that's called the sandpipe,
Oh,
okay? And then that usually, another thing too, is sewer and water. Sewer and water, 90% of the time are in the same trench. They're in the same path. Why? Because it makes sense when they build the house. If they're gonna dig a trench, they're gonna dig one trench for two utilities, the sewer and water. So basically where you see these on the lawn is generally where that sewer's gonna be. And by the way, it'll probably, that cleanup's probably gonna be right there next to it, around that area. So if you see this grayish, whitish pipe sticking up out of the ground right next to that, in a house, say in Sackville, or, you know, there's also Spyfield and all that, right? You gotta think of the era, right? 1970, 1980. Okay, you see that next to that?
Why
That's a cleanup.
why won't the city go around Casa?
If they wait until, one at a time, one at a time. They all know about this stuff. It's just that there's not enough money to go around right now and fix all the
So
systems.
they'll just wait till they
They
have to.
wait until there's a sewer backup. Unfortunately, they deal with it as they arrive. Therefore, my phone rings every day. Every day we have sewers being dug in the city, multiple sewers every day. Oh, yeah. No road every day probably being dug right now.
Just dig it all up.
Yeah, slowly, all being done. There's also other things too, pipe relining and stuff I was talking about. That's new, it's a new way of fixing sewers and stuff. So, anyway, where was I here? Okay, so 1970, 1980, they were using the asbestos concrete pipe. Lots of cleanouts that are potential problems. Have we been to one there where we've had these cleanouts be a problem? Yep. Remember? Yep. Yeah, so, yeah, definitely, yeah. So this is why I'm saying why it's so important to video sewers.
So if that, valve thingy there, was the problem, yeah, what's the fix? Like, so.
Actually, the city takes responsibility.
Oh, goody, yeah.
100% responsibility because they were the ones that told people that the government enforced this to be done, right? It was actually an extra expense. The contractors were, that were dealing with it. They said, yeah, it cost $800 more on the house purchase to have one of those installed. So nobody wanted to do it, right? Nobody wanted to do it because nobody wants to spend more money, but it was mandatory. So anyway, either way, it's on the property line. So therefore, they are responsible for it. Anything on the property line or beyond the property line to the city, they're responsible for it. Physically. Okay, so physically, if that pipe is defective to a point where it can cause sewer backups, they take responsibility. Yeah.
Do they replace it though?
They fix it one way or another.
Okay,
They can
so
replace it, they can dig it, they
replacing
can
it
line
though
it.
is just going to make it,
What they do with these, you know what they do with these? They just take them out. So they go there and they dig down, or they hydro excavate is another way of doing it, right? And they dig down and they basically take that T out and they put a straight pipe in. There goes your problems with the defective cleanups. With it being slow, they just eliminate it as they arrive and it's causing a problem. Okay?
So could you, if you wanted to be a definitive and blind homeowner, just call the city and ask them to cap it?
No, they're not going to do that. Oh, if it's not a problem, they don't deal with it.
so even if it was like for a home purchase, say for instance, like if, we had a buyer and if this was the scenario and you'd inspect, so you get an inspector in and the inspector says, okay, here's the issue, this could be a problem.
No, it's not, it could be.
It's going to be. So then.
Not every single one of them is a problem.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so just because you have this doesn't mean that every single one is going to be a problem. But it could be.
For the homeowner to be aware of.
So what you want to do is you want to inspect the sewer, identify whether or not there's a property line. If there is, like when we run a camera through, right? When we're running the camera through, we're only seeing it from this perspective, right? So in the pipe, here's our camera, in the pipe, here's the pipe, here's the clean out, right? And then her camera's running through there, and I go, oh, there was a clean out. I can see it right on the camera, right? But I can't tell you whether or not this here, all the way from here to here is fine. I can't tell you that. So what I would do is I would go out there and I would take a look for it. Because my cameras are locatable. So I'd be able to go out and okay, there it is there. Oh, is it visible? Can I see that come out of the ground? Sometimes I can't. So then I just take a flashlight and I look down and can I see my light even? Like if my light would be propelling up through there. So if I can see my light, that's a good sign, that's right. But it would have to be capped. You want to make sure it's capped, right? So I was able to basically from the above surface look down and say, okay, is this effective enough?
Who do you get to cap it?
Well, I don't want to say that you do it yourself. You probably shouldn't say that, but basically you can hire a company to do that, like somebody that does sewer repairs. Officially, if you want to do that. So plumbers' jurisdiction basically doesn't go past 3 feet from the house. They snake sewers and everything like that, but basically around here, you deal with an exterior sewer contractor, right, to repair your sewers. Not to say that some plumbers go in there and charge a fortune to replace a sewer pipe,
or past the house, which usually it costs twice as much to do. Sure, out there, you know, yeah. But basically, yeah, so then, so, you know, we want to identify, you know, this is the whole idea of inspecting sewers, to identify possible issues, right? So anyway, so in 1970, 1980. Now, remember when I said that physically the city is responsible? In this case, it's Halifax Water because they have taken over responsibility of the sewers, as well as the water. They always have responsibility of the water. Well, I don't know, time flies, but probably 7 years ago, maybe 5 years ago, Halifax Water took over the responsibility of sewers. It was forced, okay? Department of Environment, Canada, Canadian Environment, they said, hey, you got to do something there. It's too much pollution. It's too much. It's just you got to fix your sewers. We have issues, right? So basically, what was going on is Halifax HRN didn't ever want to spend the money, right? Because what do the public want? Do they want a new sewer? Or do they want a new park? Do they want a new sidewalk? Do they want the driveway? Do they want the road page? Or do they want a new sewer? See, so nobody you know, wanted to spend the money. The public doesn't understand how important it is to have a functional sewer. Okay, they do want to have a playground, right? So that was always a battle, okay, for the sewer departments to get the money to fix the sewers because it was always a low priority. Okay. So anyway, so the Halifax Water is responsible. Basically, they've been allocated to say, okay, you are assigned to make sure that this gets done, and they backbill the city actually when it comes to repairs in some cases. Remember what I was talking about tree roots? Okay. City trees are the responsibility of the city. So if they cause sewer problems, then they repair it right to the front of your house. So the property line no longer is in effect anymore, right? So basically what goes on there is they become responsible for the roots right up to the cast iron pipe at the front of the house. And they will do whatever it takes to basically eliminate that problem. So that's always actually been in place for not as long as I've been in business. I mean, there's some weird, not weird, but I mean, we have different jurisdictions here. We have like 3 divisions of sewer departments here, and they still have 3 divisions. And each division had their own little thing going on there with how they were going to deal with sewer issues. But now it's all amalgamated, Halifax Water. So there's one rule with roots, and that is they take responsibility of city tree roots. And what they do is they actually, Halifax Water, they actually backbill HRN. Like say if I can a video of sewer, and if the sewer is full of tree roots and it causes a sewer problem in the tree, then the video gets done, and then they go and they fix it, and they actually backbill HRN for that cost of repair.
So you're saying city trees, so
City trees.
how do we
How do you
know?
distinguish that?
Yeah.
Anything on the property line or on from the property line out, it's a city tree.
On the property line out.
Out.
So anything that's on your property that you, is probably.
That's your tree.
Yeah, that's
Your
your
problem.
So city trees. So basically trees that were there, okay.
A lot of them are between the curb and the sidewalk, exactly right. Now, not all of them are though.
So it's got to be past your property.
Property line, yeah.
Okay.
So like there's plenty of places I go, like in Dartmouth, for instance, okay, you go up into, you know where Bel Air Drive is?
Yeah.
Okay, there's lots of trees on that are actually, there's no sidewalk, for instance, and there's lots of trees that are right up close to the property line. They were planted by the city, and they are considered a city tree. A lot of people think that it's not even a city tree. So this is where you want to get an inspector, okay, that knows what they're doing. So when they go and they video these pipes, then they know the rules. You know, they know how to help the client, right? You know, so if I go there and I go, okay, yeah, where's the property line? Well, how do we know where the property line is? Remember that water shut off? Right there. Okay, that there is considered property line. When you go to the house, that's their water shut off. It's considered property line. So if we know where that is, and a lot of times they're visible, but not always. Sometimes they're going underground. But let's say if I go there and I see that there, and I see the tree, and I'm like, okay, city tree. Okay. So then they'll take responsibility of that scenario, right? So, yeah, there's a lot of stuff about sewers, you know, people don't realize.
I know.
So, yeah, so Okay, so anyway, so we're going from that pipe we got into plastic, right? They experimented with that thin wall plastic there for a while. That didn't work out, so they went to the asbestos. They did that for 10 years until that got banned because there was asbestos in it, right? Canada said, no, we're not allowed to make that in Canada. We're not allowed to sell that here, that's bad. So I feel for the poor guys that were down in the trenches, cutting that with chop saws, with dust flying everywhere. I mean, these are guys that are still, I know people in this industry, and it's like, I feel, Bill, and down in the Sackville Trench, he's a good guy, he's an estimator and stuff. I'd say, Bill, where is it with that asbestos? It goes, Rob, back then, there was no knowledge of what asbestos does or whatever. And I'm sure that some people, obviously suffered with asbestos. They shouldn't hear about it.
They didn't even realize it.
Didn't even know.
They weren't thinking.
Didn't even realize. Yeah, so basically, that pipe there, now that had a 50-year design life. Concrete, clay has a 100-year design life. It's going to probably exceed. I'd say the clay is exceeding it now. You'll still get more life for the clay. Okay. Concrete, 100-year design life. I don't think we'll get that. It probably lasts 100 years. I find that it's not a very good. It doesn't have a low coefficient of friction. You know what I mean? Because it's rough pipe, so you have more issues with concrete than you would with pipe. So then we went to clay, and we keep going here now. They banned asbestos, and then they went with a newer plastic pipe. And that's when the better pipes started coming in. But the first phase of this plastic.
Just 1980 on there?
Yeah. The first phase of this plastic, they used to use glue plates, right? And they just sometimes they just stay together. And the rules, there are also the rules too. They weren't so great for roots, okay? So the glue joint, the glue would let go and the roots come in, right? So another thing too is this first phase of plastic. They had no problem using 45s and 90s, like the fittings. Okay, so it seemed like it was going to be okay and everything, right? So here the sewer comes out, and then here's the main down here, right? So all right, well we're not going to dig like that because that would cost more money, right? So then they do this, and they drop it down like that. Okay, it's cheaper to install a sewer that way. The main is 12 feet deep. And then take it at 6 feet and then drop it down. What I find sometimes there is this is the weak point, and it could shear off or whatever. Okay, so we see Colby Village. Run across my street. I know the guy across the street there sheared off right here. It's sheared right off, right? Because there's too much stress there, right? So what they did is they realized that the engineering and the engineers and stuff like that. They go, well, how can we eliminate that, right? Okay, we're going to use long sweeps now. Mandatory to use a long sweep tape. Okay, that. Because what that's doing is dividing up all that stress. So we have less problems this way.
So is that, like, when did they figure out that, like, would it be 5 years later, or?
Yeah, probably 10 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was an idea, because it takes a while for them to fail. We don't see what's going to happen until it happens later on, right? So, so then, you got a phase of plastic where, you have potential problems there, right?
So that one, the first one, that one there, if it fails, like it's sheared.
Yeah.
Without doing an inspection,
Sewer backup.
that's what would happen.
Oh, yeah.
Wouldn't it just keep out?
No, because, well, it depends on how it happens, right? Okay, so here's a pipe, okay? Let's say it shears off. It shears off this way. That's not so bad, right? As long as there's not too much space here. Right? So you can get a shear, and it's like this, right? Like that, and that's a waterfall.
Right.
That's pretty cool, waterfall. Right? I've seen it,
Underground.
in the sewer, and I've said, okay, well, that's not supposed to be like that. But at least it's not backing up. Right. At least it's not backing up because it's a waterfall. Right? Now, it can also shear off the other way too, right? So like that, yeah. Sewage just doesn't want to jump out into the next pipe.
Right.
So basically you're going to get clogged here. Right? Also here, this is also a problem too, if the ground can accept water. If the ground accepts water, like you're saying,
then that's not good because the water will leak out and the sewage will stop there. And there's nothing to take the sewage away, so therefore the water spreads. Right?
The likely, I mean, the likely scenario would be that though, if they're coming in from here and dropping down 60, it would be,
Right here?
yeah, the shear would more likely happen in a manner that it would be a waterfall.
Usually no, it's the opposite way, yeah. Because this here tends to drop, so it will look like that. Usually. Right? So then, yeah, this is dropping.
Oh, the
Yeah.
top part.
So, and then you get clog here,
Yeah.
so then you get it back up. Right? So that's like the neighbor has done, that you like that.
So-
That was plastic pipe.
The homeowner would be responsible
1980.
for having that fixed.
No, if this was on the property line or beyond, it's free.
Okay.
Yeah, and his was free.
Oh,
And then what they can do with that is they just dig down and they fix that clock.
And more than like, or, like what's the percentage that it is on the city side property line?
Flip a coin, right?
Oh,
Yeah, you just never know. Now with plastic pipe, again, all phases of plastic, okay? This is different phases. Now our newer plastic's better, but the thing with plastic is there is no strength really to it longitudinally. Okay, so it has to be bedded properly. Remember we were talking about the sayings in the septic pipes? Okay, right. If it's not bedded properly, then that'll bend.
do you find that more in like rural areas, not in the city? No,
City.
city too.
Yeah. Well, actually more on septic though, because the rules aren't as tight. The rules aren't as tight.
Okay, so on septic, not on municipal, right?
Yeah.
So that's how I'm in my head.
But I see plenty of plastic pipe that says.
Even on the municipal side.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah, so I mean, it still happens. I just did one for actually the government there a month ago, where I also work with the government, you know, do videos too, right? And I went in there, they want a non-biased video, they didn't want to do it themselves with their own camera because that wouldn't look good at all, right? I mean, you know, who would trust them, right? And not to say they're not trustable, they're good guys, but I'm saying that, you know, you call up the city and you say, hey, I think you have a problem. And, you know, we'll come up with our own camera. Well, people won't trust that, right?
Yeah.
So if they hire an independent company with experience, I just go in there and I inspect it. I don't care, you know, I'm not there to protect.
Help either one, right?
Protect. I'm just there to state the facts. The client's right there next to me. They're seeing what I see. I'm never told to fudge anything. I won't do it anyway, right? It's not a problem. So the client's there, the homeowner's there, we video the pipe, explain to him the homeowner what we're seeing. I did this one where the pipe was plastic and there was two sags in it beyond the property line. And they were significant, right? And they're gonna dig it now, right? So what it is basically.
So the tanks were beyond the property line?
Beyond the property line. Water shut off, I went out, checked the water shut off. I know where the property lines are anyway. Rule of thumb is 33 feet from the center of the street. 33 feet back, there's your property line. Rule of thumb, but not all the time. You can't take that for sure all the time. It's everybody, some people say 33 feet every time. No. Right? We'll draw that out.
Yeah, there is.
There's like two streets there, right? How's that look there? So anyway, either way, let's see here. So this here, just show you the sag here on this one. So we this is the way the pipe should be, right? A grade, right? Positive grade down, okay? Sewer wants to run down we go, right? Now, what happens is if you have, here's the proper line. So here's the property line right here. This is the proper grade. So what happens if we go like this, and then we go like this, we go like this, and then right? There's two sags in the pipe. Okay? So now sags aren't the end of the world if they're minor. They can be left alone without any problems. Generally, they're okay. Okay? But when they become significant, what happens is the pipe, here's the sag, water seeks its own level, right? So what happens is the water's here, Here's the water. The water should only, in a functioning, good functioning sewer, it's mostly air. It's not water. Okay? So your water's only gonna run at about a third high in the sewer pipe. That's normal. Maybe half high. Everything in the house is running at the same time. Okay? So the sewer is mainly air for venting purposes to make that water run. It wouldn't function properly at all if this pipe is full. It's never designed to be full. Right? So anyway, so the water's running down, right? And this is the normal height of the water, say. Okay? What happens here? There's the water right there. Here's the water again back down, like another expert in, but this here area would fill up and then the sewer again, and it would just, so this area would become full of water, all of this here, right? So when that occurs, okay, what we use in our house is grease and soap. We use lots of soap, right? We use detergents, and we have grease, right? We can't get away from it. We eat it, right? It's on our dishes, right? Soap and grease combine, and they create a solid white mass. It's like bar soap, right? I got a video, actually, I'll show you a video on here of one I did in Stewiacke there. I was doing a course, and on the way back, I got a call at the shore on the way, right? Well, you wouldn't believe it, I'm going to stay there. So basically, over a long period of time, what happens, and you think, okay, well, Robert, it's going to build up on the bottom, right? Nope. It's soap and grease are lighter than water, so therefore it sticks to the top of the pipe. It's exploding. So a little bit at a time, a little bit at a time, 1 year at a time, it builds up here, and it grows. It actually grows down to the point where it actually closes that pipe off in the middle, let's say, right there, and it's all filled up over there. That shuts your sewer down and done. You're done. Sewer back up, right? But that can take, I've seen it happen in as early as 7 years. Right?
Clean skin off.
What's that?
Clean skin out.
Or they're not scraping the plates very well or something. I don't know. Some people they use more grease than others, I guess. They when I was growing up, my mother said that you always use hot water when you're cleaning out the dish. They used to pour the grease right down there.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Pour it down, you just chase it with hot water and some soap. Everything's all good to go. Not true at all. That solidifies your pipe. Right? So anyway, so there's a solid mass, and then they have a pipe attack, I call it, right? So it doesn't move anymore, sewer back up. Then traditionally what happens is you call a plumber, right? The plumber goes in with a snake, right? Now this pipe is 4-inch diameter. They don't use a 4-inch cutter, right? They'd be crazy to. They go in there with a smaller cutter and they just try to get that thing running and going. Okay, and I've been at this 20 years, and I've seen where it's gone from clearing the sewer this way to using cameras to clear sewers and to properly, realistically, in order to clean that pipe properly, you might want to use a camera in the process. That way there you assure that all of this goes straight out of here. Okay, so there's a sag, and then this is what happens. So sag first, build up next, back up. Okay, so then basically you can cut all that grease out of there or whatever, and then it'll still work again, but it doesn't mean that it's right. The sag still exists. It will repeat itself again. So, but if we can identify that sag is beyond the property line, the city will come tell you that. Now, when I started doing this many years ago, we had a battle for them to do that. I remember dealing with different divisions, and they would say, "Oh, well, that's grease. That's grease from your house. That's not our problem. That's your problem." Sag caused the problem. The grease is there because the sag is there. There's no grease there. No grease there. Grease there. Sag is the dynamics of how things flow. And basically, now they when you go in there, you identify what this sag and your grease build it up. Right? So we're getting better. We're getting better at fixing stuff and for people understanding. And then we have newer people in these departments too, right? Younger blood, and they have bigger budgets to fix these things. Back then, when I was doing that, they had no budget. And when they started using cameras, it was like chaos. It was like, oh my God, people are seeing this stuff. right? And it's like, and it's in our face, what are we gonna do? And I remember the old guys that are retired now, they used to say, God, well, Robert, we don't have the budget, you know. At the end of the day, and then what they'd do is they'd go, okay, we need more money this year because our digs are twice as many as last year. It was going up exponentially with the sewer digs because of the cameras. Cameras would reveal what's going on, and therefore they have to do something about it because they're responsible. Because if the bylaw or the rules states they must fix beyond the property line alone, you know, and then things would go to court possibly, and you know, get opposite lose because they're stating is that they fix stuff beyond there, and now you can actually prove it. So what was happening every year, the budgets were going through the roof. And then eventually Halifax Water took it over, and now we actually spend a lot more money than we were before fixing the sewers. That's why your water bill's going up so high, by the way. You see the propaganda letters that you've been getting, finding you, that the sewers have to be refixed.
Yeah.
It's trying to get people into that groove, trying to get them to realize that our sewers are falling apart. We need to fix them, we're going to come up for that. So we've got to come to your pockets to fix them. So, yeah, it's all happening, right? So anyway, so then this is plastic pipe. So plastic pipe, just because it's newer doesn't mean it's going to be okay, right? So a reason is that what you do is you video the sewer. You identify potential issues. Okay, before that.
Can I ask you, what do you find is different, well, there's probably lots, but between inspecting city stuff than inspecting rural stuff? So is it made the same? Like, is
Yeah,
it,
it's all the same pipe.
It's all the same pipe.
All the same pipe, because remember era, right?
Right, exactly.
1970, what was the pipe being used?
Right.
It doesn't matter if it was purchased in the rural area or if it was in the city, it was the pipe that was on the market at the time.
So do you find that just because maybe it's used in the city or something, I don't know.
Well, there's more population in the city.
Right,
there's
so
more
are you
potential
finding
for
more, yeah, so.
Yeah, it's just a numbers game, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, you get 100,000 people, then, you know, you're getting 50% of those need the sewers repaired.
Right.
Right, so when you're in the country, still 50% need the sewers repaired.
So when you're looking at sewers in rural areas or in the city, basically you're looking for the same thing. As an agent standing inside a client, when, you know, you're.
Oh, yeah, no matter where you're at, if they have a sewer,
yeah,
then
or septic,
septic, same thing. The septic is a whole different.
Well, sorry,
We'll get to the septic, we're sort of going through municipal sewers right now, but remember, in the septic side, they were also using the same pipes at the same time. Okay, so if you have a 100-year-old house in the country, and it's on septic, then they're gonna use cast iron and they're gonna use clay, right? So I go up to places and they have clay pipe going to the tank or whatever. A lot of times I'll see cast going to the tank though sometimes. They're just, because the tank could be fairly close, so they just keep running the cast up with the tank. I do that. Like a week ago or something like that, there's an old place and the cast ran all the way to the tank. Yeah.
And is that okay?
Well, I mean, as long as the cast is fine, right? You know, yeah. I mean, what we identify with cast, we got to worry about the cast. Like, say if somebody's buying a house and it's 100 years old, and if I go do an inspection, I tell people that they're at end of life of the cast.
Right.
They need to know that, right?
And just on that, so say for instance, you tell them that they're, so what's their alternative, like to get just a whole new septic system?
Oh, well, and septics, that's, I'm talking about just the pipe itself.
Okay.
End of life.
End of life of the pipe.
By the way, it can be end of life in cast up 50 years too. It just depends on the ground that it was put in sometimes. You're in this ground, and if there's a lot of moisture, you know, then you got rock from inside.
So they would just have to replace that pipe, or they would make.
Yeah, or one method, certain methods of repair, right? So there's pipe relining these days. I'm not a big fan of lining cast iron pipe because cast is already reduced quite a bit just from the rust. And then if you line the inside, depending on the size of the liner you're using, the thickness of the different brands, then you're actually going to really reduce that pipe size. You know, so reduction of the original pipe size is not recommended because that's the way it was done. Right? It's possible.
I mean, the deteriorating.
The outside, yeah, but if you put like liners, we'll get into talking about liners there a little later, about, that, I'm not gonna prepare. But generally what we do here most of the time now is we dig and replace pipe. That's a traditional method, right? So there are different methods of repairing that. So, okay, so then now we're up to the plastic pipe, right? That's the latest phase of pipe that we're using. And we're using a better plastic pipe now that have rubber gaskets. So, actually it'll hold pressure. These things are so good. If they don't take the gasket out, they're not supposed to. And then here's the gasket, sort of like that. Right, here's the pipe. The pipe like that, and then they have a molded rubber gasket inside here, and this other pipe slides in. They push that in. They go here, like this like molded area where that's as far as you can push it in. That slides in there, and there's a rubber gasket here like that, and then bang, you put that together, and that'll actually hold the pressure. That's so good. Like pump that on and hold the pressure. So that is really good for roots. Keep the roots up. Solid gasket there.
So you're only using that now to fix or
No.
in new build?
New installs, spec.
Okay.
It has to be installed. If you're pulling a permit, which you're supposed to, you're within HRM, I can't comment on other places, but, in HRM, we have a specification on how to put in sewers, which must be followed. If it's not followed, it's the rules, that's not proper, right? It's there to try to prevent having sewer problems in the future. We're raising the bar, right? So basically, this is the latest one, and it's pretty good, But again, there's no linear, what I'm saying is it's as good as when you dig the trench and make sure that you got proper grade and that you're not going to have a sag, because later on you just say
Do you think that's why sags happen? Because I think you mentioned
The
that
ground
earlier,
is-
is because
the
the ground is
it's
not.
all about the dig.
Right,
Yeah,
okay.
it's all about how the ground has been prepared, right? Like that one I was telling you in the video.
Yeah.
That was only installed probably 5 years ago.
Yeah, and that's like the one that I did not that long ago, that was 7 years old, like, under the 7-year warranty, so it was like 6 years old, and it was like, oh my God.
And we're not picking on, I'm not picking on, who did that install for us? Well-known company, right? So it could have been, we don't live in a perfect world. It could have been that ground is a problem. It might be a problem. And this time, this will be the third kick of the can on this one, right? So there was the original sewer. It was actually Kimberly. There's some subdivision up there. And anyway, so what happened there was originally the house was built probably 15 years ago, maybe 20, and then that had a sag, and they then fixed it. This has a sag, so something was going on.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're going to dig it up again, and we're going to get that. And we're going to obviously have to take special measures to try to prevent that from occurring. So anyway.
You install them for builders as well?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't install any.
You don't, oh, you don't install?
I do. I have a division that does pipe relining.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we can line pipes inside consciously.
You just want to fix what everybody else.
Yeah, no, well, there's certain things that you can fix with liners that is beneficial. We'll get to the liner thing there later, where it can be beneficial to your clients all around, right? So my job is really, if I'm going to do an inspection, is not to sell a liner, it's not to sell. My job is to go in there and basically tell you how it is right now, a snapshot of what's going on in that sewer or septic system, right? And then just say, okay, currently this is what you got. My experience also with pipes, different types of pipes. I'm also be able to talk to the client and tell them. I always like to have the client there. Right? Because I mean, you guys don't know anything about sewers, and you're going to learn from me for sure. Ask him, Richard. He knows that scope to clean eggs. Right? Calls me up. Yeah, I know what the P-trap is. It's in a good spot, and blah blah blah. Right? And that way, there it can go smoothly, right? When we go there and do the inspection. Yeah. So. Yeah, so the latest is plastic, but the plastic has its.
So in 20 years, when we're sitting here and you're telling us about that pipe, what are you going to say?
I figured 10 maybe, right? So, anyway, yeah, who knows, right? Yeah. Because there even this type of pipe, even this STL
ER 28, they call it, okay? They're changing it. They change things. A lot of times.
New and
about money.
improved.
Well, I don't know about that. You know.
Yeah, well, yeah.
It's probably about, we're gonna change how that's made. We're gonna have to make it differently. It's probably about money, but they have to maintain at least a stack of certain
Probably
strengths.
figured out how to do it cheaper.
Well, I think that's where it always
Yeah.
goes. Because unfortunately, it's about how do we maintain business, but also make money, you know? So how do you make money is maybe you spend less money. You make money, you spend less, you make more, right? So it could affect the actual product. So, but, you know, and then it takes time to figure that out. I mean, why do we have so many fights over the years? It's all about money. It's about how do we sell another product, right? Yeah, and unfortunately, it takes time. They do these tests and stuff, and they do age tests and stuff on things. They give, you know, approximate lifespan. The approximate lifespan of this is 50 to 100 years. Let's see. We don't know. They haven't used it 50 years, so we don't know. But I mean, personally though, if it's installed right, it's good because you got a low coefficient of friction. There's only a joint every friggin' 10 feet.
So really, you need a good pipe and a good installation.
Yeah, and that's where when I go out and I do inspections and stuff, and like I said, 50% need to be replaced. I help clients as well. Your clients, I'm going to help them by streamlining the whole scenario, and this works for both sides. Works for the buyer and the seller. So I go, let's say I go and I did one there 2 weeks ago. The agent, I had no idea who the agent was. I thought I recognized her and remember the agency. The client hired me direct though.
Yeah.
Right. So.
And that's what usually happens.
No. See, you guys are on the front line. Right? A lot of people don't even know that you can video sewer.
Oh, yeah, but we would give them that information, but we don't.
I understand that, yeah. I know that, you know, all you should do or whatever is provide some names.
Yes.
Okay? You know.
With a little bit.
Well, you know what? There's different people out there, right? There's some people, what I've been finding there now is everybody and the dog is in the camera.
Yeah, exactly.
But I can guarantee you, I know a lot about sewers, right? So this is my job, this is career, this is, I make a vested interest in know everything about sewers, and that's what my clients, I feel it's my responsibility, you know, if I'm going to go there. It's not about me making money. I want to make money, of course, we all have to make money, but we want to also, we really want to make sure that we do a proper job and protect that client. My job is to protect the client against possible sewer backups.
So you work with the client, you're not working with the agent.
I'm not working with the agent. Some agents don't like me. I'm a deal crusher.
Well, that's ridiculous. This makes me crazy.
I know, you know what?
So the selling agent wouldn't like it.
Well, no, it depends on what side you're on, but even the
what
buying agents, some buying agents don't like me. They told me already, Robert, you know, you scare my client.
Yeah.
You know, I'm never going to call it deal crusher, but I suppose I must be. But you know, you scare my client. Right?
Yeah,
So,
sometimes it's all in the.
that's going to have to
It's
change.
how you explain.
All of that attitude will have to change. Can't keep doing that.
Totally agree.
Can't keep doing
Yeah. I don't know. Well, what's going to happen is it's just not going to be acceptable. I mean, it's not acceptable. You can't have that.
Well, they're gonna come back on them anyway, like, you know, like eventually, like, something happens 2 months after getting into a house, they're coming back to the realtor, I don't care what you say.
So we went through the phase of sewage, right? And the types of plastic and this and that. So we're right up to plastic now.
Yeah.
The latest stuff. What do we have potential problems with the new plastic? Is sides, right? Primarily. Usually we don't see roots, right? Sometimes the pipe cracks and whatever. You may be stressed at the foundation, and it could crack or whatever, right? Just whatever. But let's go into the septics now, because 33% of the houses in Canada have septic systems. 32%. Yeah, that's pretty high, right? So obviously not concentrated in the city, they're all over the rural areas, but 33% of Canadians have a septic system. Pretty high. So therefore, that's important too. Now, I feel septic, it's definitely financially
a big hit on homeowners compared to the municipal sewer. Because at least with municipal, the city will take responsibility, at least in our area that you guys are working with usually. They're gonna take responsibility. We're probably the more advanced, Halifax Water and HRM is the most advanced probably municipality in Nova Scotia anyway to look after the sewer systems. Yeah, so, yeah.
I don't want to interrupt, but I just wanted to say that I think we were on a timeline until 11:30. And I don't know if other people have commitments they've got to get to. So I guess I just wanted to let you know,
Okay.
in case there was anything
I'm
really
almost-
like get home.
I think we should talk about the septic.
Yeah,
Septic's
that's
real
what I'm very
important here.
interested in that.
Yeah,
Okay.
so septic, 33% of the houses on septic. Your potential, cost there to the client is, could be, I've seen it up to $45,000, right? 45 grand, okay, for a failed septic system, depending on where you're at. Okay, now it could also be 10 grand, 15 grand, but if I see it less than 10 grand, you gotta replace the septic field.
Yeah. Well, I've dealt with a lot of septic, and usually what we find is that, like,
Yeah, well, that's minor.
Yeah,
That's not where the money's spent,
no.
right?
You
But
still have to
it is
do Yeah.
quite common. The septic systems, does anybody know what the design life approximately is of a septic system?
25 years.
Yeah, for 20, 25 years, set out by the design engineers of septic systems. Call anybody, Google, call any engineer. I got a pocket full of them in my phone, okay? Where you just call them up and say, well, how long should it last? For 20, 25 years is all we designed for. The lifespan of a mortgage. Makes sense, right? Yeah. If they figure if you buy a house, right, your house is gonna last, should last as long as your mortgage, right? Before you have to start pulling your own money. So they design the septic system to last that long. Anything beyond that is, it's like, right?
Did you say the pipe that goes from the
House to the tank, yes.
like the tank to the tank?
Okay, that's the most expensive, yeah.
Right.
Sure.
So you say typically the longer the pipe, the higher the risk of tank?
No, I mean, obviously, yeah, because your pipe is longer, so
Yeah.
therefore you're gonna have more, the more pipe you have, the more chance you are gonna have a defect. Yeah, but that's not sort of where it happens with septic. You got three parts of the septic system, right? You've got the, from host to tank, okay? That usually is short, but in some of the older houses, it can be quite long. Even once in a while, I've seen crazy long, right, whatever, but generally they're pretty short. They're like 10 feet long, 50 feet long, 20 feet long, whatever, okay? That there, a lot of times you see sags in it, but that's the cheapest part to fix, the septic system right there. You can probably, depending on what's over it, and obviously you're not supposed to build anything over your septic system, any aspect of that, right, shouldn't be built over. Let's say nothing was built over it, okay? You probably get a qualified person right there to repair that for $1,000. Okay, so that's not a big hit, huh? So then there's the tank, okay? Tank, probably looking at possibly up to $5,000 to replace.
And what would be the issue with the tank? Like, would it just
Crack.
get corroded or cracked?
It could be cracked, leaking, right? And when they're older, the tops can collapse on them. I've seen people try to repair that though, but you can buy new pieces for the tops and whatever.
Yeah.
But generally, we're trying to look at the worst case scenario for your client, right? So we're looking at maybe $5,000 to tops usually replace the tank, right? So from there, okay, down from the tank to the field, there's where the money is. And that's what generally goes to place, okay? Your field is only designed to last so long, and what happens is there's a biomass that forms in the filter sand, or whatever you want to call it. There's, depending on the age of the system, if it wasn't filter sand, it was gravel, But basically what happens is that space in which your effluent is trying to absorb into the ground, it becomes clogged. And once that's clogged, you can't accept the water anymore. And sometimes what will happen is you'll get a blow in the field, so the pressure actually creates a blow and it leaks the surface or when it down the bank or
That's what a
whatever.
dye test sometimes.
Yeah, they do the dye test, yeah. So dye tests aren't 100% though, but you do. So but anyway, so the ways in which the field can bear is basically you get a blow in the field, okay, rupture, or else the field
appeal just doesn't blow out, and then it doesn't accept water, and therefore the water you're running doesn't go down, therefore it just doesn't leave your house. Basically, your sewer backs up.
Yeah.
So basically, either one of those two things is failure. Yeah. So usually that leads to full replacement of septic system.
We need to do a backup, like, for both situations, whether it be municipal or sewer, septic, whatever. My thought process is like, it's not all going to, like, let's say it was on a septic, and you didn't know there was an issue, and it started to come back into the house.
Stop running the water.
Right.
Yeah.
And, but stop running the water.
Stop running the water in the house.
And then,
But
but
not
theoretically, it
necessarily.
shouldn't keep coming.
No, but not necessarily,
It
because it could be groundwater. Okay, and depending on how things are lying
Raining a
there,
lot.
it could be groundwater, and actually your field will become reverse saturated and go back into your house.
Okay.
Seen that happen.
Okay. Now, does that the same apply for, on municipal, if it was to back up into the house?
Yeah, well, actually, yeah, there's this, because I'm trying to streamline this stuff, right? But, yeah, rain leaders coming into your house, can't switch them off usually. You'd have to go and disconnect them. Not only that, there's groundwater underneath your slab. So the old houses used to have soil drains, they call them. And what they do is they collect your water from under your slab, and also drain tile, and they would do it with sewers, combined sewer neighborhoods. We didn't even talk about combined sewer neighborhoods, right? So that's a whole sort of a bit of a topic there, right? That would be like, no, Kingswood, you're talking like septic, you mean? Yeah, Kingswood.
You just said septic, well, they do have.
Yeah, no, you wouldn't have rain leaders, no, that wouldn't be going into your septic, yeah. I'm talking municipal sewer where you have a combined sewer neighborhood, where your street has catch basins, right? And those drain into the same big sewer pipe as your sewers in your house. And generally, they can have drain tile at your footing, rain leaders coming down, and they all combine together and go to the main. This is where you want to have backwater valves,
How
right?
do we know what those neighborhoods are?
Oh, they're basically, it's the old parts of the city, right? So here's the way. If you look on the street, and if you see double manholes, that means you have a storm sewer system too, right? So like, if you look on the street, you got one there, basically then that means that you got storm, and that means you don't have combined. That's not to say people don't put some pumps in, if you sand there too, or whatever, that's being done.
So double manholes mean combined or not combined?
What was that?
You said double manholes mean what?
Meaning that there's a division of the sewers, so you have storm and
So that's a good
sanitary.
thing then?
It's a good thing, yeah, better. Yeah, because that way there, your rain leaders shouldn't be going into your poop pipe, right? Because it's easier to, because what would happen is if you had a lateral backup, your lateral broke or something, and you've got rain leaders going in, you have drain tile, soil drain going in, guess what's gonna happen? You can't stop that water. That water is gonna just fill up your basement, right? So that's more serious, right? So this is why it's important to check the sewers, right? Check the sewers before you buy the house. Bang, things like that, like a good inspector is gonna be able to figure that stuff out. They should be thinking about all that stuff. Not just sticking the camera down there and saying, this pipe right here, right now, is okay, this is it. There's other things to think about, right? Like when I go into a neighborhood, I know what kind of system is there and whatever, right? And the things that we should be looking for. Cross connections, never even brought that up. Cross connections, if you hear it on the radio there, an old guy out in Spryfield, a 4 years ago, where they told him he had to dig up a sewer.
Yeah.
He didn't have any money, remember? That was a cross connection, right? So what they did is they went around and they're doing studies to find out where the cross connections are, because they don't want poop pipe going into the storm sewer, right? Because their storm pipe is going probably to a local lake, right? So they're trying to stop the pollution, right? So, and a certain small percentage of houses, when they were hooked up reverse. It's a mistake.
His fault, anyway.
It wasn't, yeah, so anyway, so that was just an example, but yeah, that's another thing to think about. When you're videoing the sewer, you might want to be thinking about, okay, is this a potential cross-connection issue? So when I go and I video the sewer, I look to see what main that's going into, So if it's dumping into a large concrete main, Well, obviously, we want to question that. Because just because the lateral looks great, oh yeah, your lateral is fine. Well, what happened later on when he gets a letter from Halifax Water saying, yeah, your lateral is going into the storm and you have to dig it up and pay for it all. Well, geez, I'd look like an idiot, right, if I didn't bring that up, right? So I'm always thinking about that stuff, right? So, because I've never had a call in 20 years saying that I had a problem, right? That anything I've done, I've always tried to do it, right? So basically, I look for things like that where there's, potential issues there in the main. That's where I have a good understanding. Maybe because I do the main as well with flowers.
And you might not be able to answer that, but, so if it is a crossing, why would it be the homeowners?
No, okay, the current homeowner is responsible. Don't tell me, don't ask. It just is. The current homeowner is responsible for a cross connection. So if your buyer, if your client is buying a house, right, and he buys a house that has cross connection, he's now responsible. The old owner isn't anymore. He sold the house. He didn't own it.
No, but I'm wondering why the city wouldn't do the water people or whoever put it there.
Well, you'd have to prove that. And there's been issues before where I've actually proven, okay, like in Portland Estates, the newer part, where I've gone in there and I had to do investigations, right? I get hired by government, I get hired by the digger, everybody, right? So I get hired by a client there. The house is only 7 years old, and he got a letter from the city saying that you have a cross connection, sir, and you have to dig it. You have to fix that by this date, or else your water's getting cut off. So he called the digger, and the digger said, well, sure, we'll dig it up and fix it for you, but we don't know where you're going to dig or anything like that, so call Detectall. I said, well, no, right? So Detectall, I'm going to find out what's going on there. So I went in there, and I did an investigation, and dug into the paperwork and things like that, and found that actually the government made a mistake. It wasn't really, I don't want to say the government, but basically it wasn't his fault. I found that based on the paper trail, that basically the inspection was done, but it was missed on the inspection. Because there's different, when you hook up a sewer, they actually do sound tests. One of the tests is a sound test. So basically, somebody signed off on the sound test, and it was wrong. Because if they did the sound test, they would have known that it was going to the storm sewer system. And so basically, we got them on that. So I saved him. I've got good reviews. So if you go on the Yellow Pages online there, that guy left me a page, okay, saying, hey, wow, right? Saying he was so happy. He states right in the thing that I saved him $40,000 because they had to dig up Supple Street, change the sewers over. It went on for days, but he would have had to fit that bill. So anyway, so this is why it's important to inspect sewers, because we even have a potential cross connection issue that your client may inherit, which the city considers the current owner of the house to have to fix. I don't know.
They can do it. Or even the owner before that.
Well, no, I mean, obviously a contractor did it. Somebody dug it and put in the sewer, right? But I don't know why, but that's the way they deal with it, okay? I don't know why the policy is the way it is, but I do know that the current owner is responsible for the cross connection, and they get the letter, and they get told to dig it. And I've done multiple investigations like that. Unfortunately, I was only ever to prove one where that he didn't have to pay, right? The other ones, if they're so old, then there's no paper trail anymore. And then unfortunately, they're on the hook to dig it up.
So with every
On septic, yeah.
Yeah,
So-
with every septic that you do, do you always do a flow test?
Yes.
And how often would they
Have to. I always do a dye test, a flow test. I call it a load test because we're really loading the septic, right? So we do a video. I always recommend that we do the video if we can. We want to try to video the field. Really, let's try to get that field if we can. That means we need full access to the septic tank. Currently, there's no actual test right now being performed by the inspectors out there that is basically a mandatory minimal test to test septics. Unfortunately, there isn't any. Okay, now that's probably going to change because I'm going to be pushing for it. I mean, I feel, you know, I'm going to push that, right? It has to be done because the problem is the quality of inspections on septic can vary. And that quality can totally vary in the protection of your client, right? So I just got a call from an agent there a day or two ago, and she had an inspection done for her client 3 years ago, and they only videoed the tank. And anyway, some reason that was the only thing that was done. And then, and this is her client, right? And everything was cool, right? Supposedly. And then now there was another inspection done, and that inspection was done from the tank to the field as well. And it was determined by that inspector, which wasn't the same as the other inspector, that the field was toast. Okay, so now she's pretty angry right now. That agent's angry because she feels, you know, she's not responsible, but she's like, wow, you know, like it's only 3 years in the difference here. And, you know, if they had checked that 3 years ago, would they have picked that up? Right? Because now they're on the hook for that.
So do you ever find it compromises the well when you're doing it?
Well, yeah, once it did, yeah. But I mean, you know, for the amount of water we run, and if it runs out, that's a good idea to know that.
Yeah, no, I was just
Yeah.
curious,
Yeah.
like.
But like if you have low flow wells and stuff, you know, that could be a problem. But you know, people don't realize sometimes they buy low flow wells and they don't realize.
Right.
So it's good to know anyway, right? If you run out of water doing a load test, then yeah, you would definitely want to know that.
I think I might have missed it, but it's the video from the tank to the field.
Full access to the tank. The
Which
surface.
means the tank has to be.
The surface of the tank has to be, in my opinion, fully uncovered, unless somebody knows what they're doing there, you know, like, because there are certain openings, right, that you want
But
to
if
look
you're
for.
gonna do it, we need to request that
And
the
let it be done, yeah. I mean, that's what I do, because I don't want to take the liability of damaging somebody's property.
And
There are other people that will do it, though. They'll go in there and they'll do it. You know, that's
can you do that later?
the problem, isn't it? Yeah. People want to buy and sell houses all year round. Yeah, so it's more difficult to try to protect the clients on septic. It is. It should be done every freaking time. Every time it should be done because it's so expensive, right? The municipal sewer, at least you got the city paying for, you know, property line out, right? Usually ballpark to replace the municipal sewer, and that's without any collateral damage, is around $3,000 straight line bid for property line. It could be $2,000, then it could be $3,500. I don't see them much over $3,500 though, and that includes new pipe, dirt, not sod. Right? And these are by qualified companies, like companies that you ever hear, like G&R Kelly. They're doing that tackle trenching. They're the main companies that do the city digs for laterals. They also do the city side and the homeowner side. They will quote the homeowner side. So yeah, but then when you're dealing with septic, you're dealing with, you know, potentially $10,000, 20, 30, 45. I've seen 45 when you're on the water. Yeah. You're on the water. And all whole system. Yeah. Field, it can range anywhere from say 8, 10, 15, 25,000. Depends on the type of septic system. There's 4 to 6 different types, right, out there. So if you go into a C3 raised mound system, pressurized, you're getting some money. Just the vast amount of filter sand alone is a lot of money. It's just the amount of material required to build these systems, right? And it's so highly regulated now that you have to basically. So and remember, there's a design life on septic systems, right? So if you go to your client, like to me, I don't even feel like I'm going to tell the client, but you guys are the first people that are talking to your clients. You should iron out, in my opinion, whether or not people are comfortable with buying a system on septic. Well,
So essentially, like, I mean,
for
really,
the cost,
would you be looking at it in a sense, like if the property is over 25 years?
then you have to think about possibly replacing septic system. You have to bring that up to the client. That's your, in my opinion, that's the agent's, agent should do that.
So we
It
should.
shouldn't be left to me when I arrive on site to do an inspection, just to then break that news to them.
Yeah.
They should already know that.
Right.
So you have to really, in my opinion, if I was an agent, okay, and I was selling a house on septic, and, or you know how they, imagine the clients come to you and go, well, we're thinking about buying outside of the city, you know, we like the deers, and they you know, they want the country living or whatever, and also sometimes, you know, it's cheaper, right, okay, but it's not cheaper to replace the septic though. So there's reasons why, okay, you're dealing with, okay, why that house is cheaper, think about it. Why do they have more land? They had to have more land because there was a septic system, right? So just because you got more land, well, you need the land for the septic, okay? It was mandatory. So now some of the older systems, the older places, really don't have as much land. It becomes more expensive to replace the septic because you get into a more design system that's more designed, more costly, okay? So yeah, so basically you got to get into, and also you may have to, you know, the ground may not accept the water anymore. Yeah. Thanks for coming.
Thank you very much.
So yes, yeah,
What's the oldest septic field you've seen?
over 100 years old.
And we still
And it wasn't a septic system, it was like a cesspool. It was like a, yeah, it sounds bad, right? But they used to call them, you know.
I can see his face, like.
It basically looks like a well. It's like a well. Pipe goes to the well, it's just built with rock, and it just goes there, and it just leads us under the ground.
And it was
Still working,
well.
works great.
Oh, yeah.
Still working.
Thanks a little
Oh, you
bit,
just
but.
dump it in, yeah.
Yeah,
How much road,
the ground is, if the ground is acceptable, you know, if it wants to take the upland, it seems like it was still working. I mean, I wouldn't certainly depend on that, right? I mean, I would, if I were buying that house, I would say, okay, well, how much is it going to cost you to the septic system?
But realistically, it's 25 years.
Yeah, but those older systems like that one there, geez, I don't know, like, I don't think it was, that's obviously not 25. You know, but there was no engineering really probably involved with that, I guess. It was sort of like try, test, and true, and it lasts a long time. But it's not. Yeah, and some tanks, some cars, until the windows caved in and you were good to go, right? So, old steel barrels. I had a place when I was in my first house. It was like a little shack, basically. I bought it. It was cheap, right? And it had two steel drums in there that collapsed. And at the time, it cost me $2,400 to replace the whole system. I was on a river in Timberlake. So I was lucky. That was before it got really highly regulated. Now it's regulated big time. There's no $2,400 system going in anymore. But yeah, so what I would be concerned about, like, in my opinion, you guys, if you're talking to your clients, you know, oh, well, I want to buy in the country, right? Okay, well, you realize in the country you have well, $5,000. Well, $5,000. Or maybe $3,000 or something, $2,800 or whatever. Okay. Septic, who knows? But it's a big hit, right? So you got a new home buyer, young, right? Maxing out their mortgage, right? Can they afford that? Probably won't be able to afford that in the first year or two. They have to build equity in it probably, right? For that. I've seen people walk away and go bankrupt. You know, how do you fix the septic in those situations? So you want to avoid that, I think, for your clients, right? Is because, you know, they're just, you know, I'm not saying you're going to blame you, but, you know, wouldn't it be better if you, in my opinion, if you said, okay, well, you know, in the country you're dealing with a well, that can fail, you may have to redrill the well. Your septic system, you know, design life is 20, 25 years. You know, to me, you're doing them a service by saying that.
Yeah, they don't know.
Right?
I mean,
They don't know. Homeowners don't know. They flush and it goes away. That's it. That's all people think. They flush and it goes away. Right? Until they don't. So anyway, so you basically have to, in my opinion, try to educate them and say, you know, okay, well, you know, it might be different. And I talk to them, when they're sent to me, I tell them right away. I say, how old's the house you're looking at? That's for 35 years. Okay. Do you know that design life on the septic system is 20 to 25 years? No, I have no idea. Or some say, yeah, I know. I've had a septic. I've had one or whatever. You know, is this your first house? You know, could you afford it if it cost you $25,000 to fail next week? Because when I go in and do the inspection, it's as good as the day that I did it. There's no warranty. No warranty on the inspection. Can't. Possible. So basically, we just go there and we check to see how it's operating that day, try to take the best of the visual snapshot of that, and we do some testing.
And that especially applies to things that intellectual property that would be anywhere close to 2025.
Oh, it's already, I tell them right away, done. You know, your design life has been exceeded, right? Do we continue? Do you still want me to go video it? Do you want me to check this out or not? Right? Yeah, I realize that could cost me $25,000. Okay, we'll proceed. That's all we can do, right? So if they are adamant to buying it, whether or not they can afford it or not, there was one, they checked my thing there on the yellow page, there was one I did, it was down in Brookfield or something, sort of wings away. And I went out and did one, and younger people, right? And I told them up front, I said, wow, how old is that? 78 years. I said, might not even have a real septic system then. And so I said, design life is this. He said, yeah, okay, no problem, yeah, come and do it. I went and I did it. I did a dye test, a load test, and the water was leaking down the bank, running towards the well, down towards the brook. The well was downstream and the dye was running out of this mystery pipe, I called it. Yeah, I had a big old mystery pipe, and the dye, the sewer, dye, water was running up down the bank. In 10 minutes, real estate agent owned that house. She owned the house, she was an agent down that way. Whether she even understood or knew, I go, just because you're an agent doesn't mean right?
No,
So,
for sure.
so anyway, so,
That's
that's.
why we're here.
Yeah.
So anyway, so he was so happy. And you know what he said to me? He said, Robert, he said, I'm so glad. Thank you for being thorough and doing your job. I'm so glad because, we would never have been able to afford that. Stop right there. I said, we had a discussion about this. And I told you that no matter what it comes out of our inspection, you have to be able to afford that system. He made a mistake. He didn't know I told him that. He should never have been in that position to begin with. I told him. He said he understood. He knows. He wouldn't have been able to fix it. See, so some people get it in their heads that they want to buy a place, right? And this is what they want. They really like that and this and that. All I can do is try to educate them and warn them. And ultimately, it's on my inspection. I have an audio right on my inspection stating that this is what we're doing. This is the design life. This is the situation. I have to protect myself, right? They have a record of it too. Look, I told you. So I just find that people don't take septics serious enough. I don't know why.
I think the beauty of it is that as much as you have to protect yourself as we have to protect ourselves, by doing that, we're protecting the client.
You are.
Right?
We are protecting the client. We're protecting ourselves. We're protecting the client. Let me do that. Let me do that for you guys. I'll protect the client if you let me to. Right? So anyway, either way, definitely septics. Wow, big expense. Get them checked. And 3 years old, yeah, probably. Year-old problems. I've gone into brand new houses, sagged in the pipe on the approach to the tank. They got dug up for free. People weren't even living in there yet. So they'd be covered under warranty. 18-month warranty on septic. Not very long, is it? That could vary, I guess, but basically 18-month warranty is what I hear of there. You might have a better warranty, maybe if the builder's providing, or if he's got a good reputation, he wants to make sure that it's fine. So, I've gone into one where 7 years old, and the pipe obviously was a problem. Like it was busted and whatever, and you could see the builder actually took responsibility, sent his company over and fix it for free. So that to me is a good responsible person, right? Yeah, he didn't try to deny it or anything. He said, no, look, obviously that was the error, and we'll fix that. Yeah, it's pretty impressive. And then there's other places where they don't even provide the paperwork. They don't even provide the paperwork of the septic system to the owner. The owner doesn't even know what they got. All they're doing is flushing. They don't know. I've gone to places where the people buy a house. They're on a pop-up system, and they're calling me up saying, "Yeah, can you come and locate my septic tank?" So I get there, and I go, and the red light's on. I go, well, why am I really here? Yeah, we're having some problems here. It seems like it's not flushing very well. So we figured we have to pump the tank. I said, do you even realize you have a pump chamber here too? I said, the red light's on. I said, it's not good. I said, geez. So you don't know where your tank is. So obviously you don't know where your pump chamber is. I said, so this is how this is going to go down. I'm going to video out, because you don't have paperwork. I'm going to video out to the tank. I'm going to locate the tank. You're gonna dig that up, and then we're gonna have to video from the tank to the pump chamber to find out where the pump chamber, because you've got a problem with the pump chamber. Now, usually it's within 5 feet, right? So he could fish around there and start digging. But sometimes, like back then, there was no risers on the septic systems. Nowadays, like the last year, it's mandatory. So that pump chamber could be actually 3-4 feet deep. So good luck trying to fish around, digging around you'd end up damaging a pipe or something doing that. So anyway, he ended up getting me to go back again, and once he got the tank opened up, I then went from the tank to the pump chamber located, and then we got that out, and we got the pump fixed, right? So there's just so many things. I've been at this 20 years, and there's just, you can believe, every day I'm dealing with sewer problems, septic, all over the place, and it ain't getting any better. Like pre-purchase, 50% of the pipes I videoed are in need of repair. Need of immediate repair. So imagine you're selling houses out there, right? 50% of those houses you're selling is potential backup waiting to happen in the near future. Doesn't look good, it just doesn't look good. You know what I get the feedback from the client sometimes is well, when did you buy the house? I just bought it last year. Oh, yeah, this street is all full of tar paper pipe, it's no good. Who's your agent, right? It isn't an agent that I'm dealing with, that's for sure, right? Because they would have already known, right? They would have probably called me or whatever and asked me what's on that street. But basically, the last thing you need, because you know what they ask me, I don't even have to ask that. They go, why didn't my agent tell me about this? They turn right back and they go, why isn't my agent telling me about this? Because you guys are the first in line. In my opinion, you're like that, what they say about the insurance, you've got you covered, right? They have that on there, we're looking after you. Same thing with agents. I mean, you guys have to try to, in my opinion, try to protect your clients, right? And I mean, the agents that protect their clients, they're going to be your clients for life. I mean, I deal with other agents, they're long term. I go to some of these agents, and it's like the third time I videoed a sewer for the same person. Yeah, because it's over a 10-year span, maybe 15 years. And that agent is still their agent. And it's because they got protected on that first time. It's like, wow, why would I ever go to any other agent? This guy's like on top of things. This woman's on top of things. They're looking after my best interests here. So in my opinion, it's good for business to look after your clients. Like I told you before, it's called the deal crusher, and that was called I Scare the Clients. There was one I went out and did out in the river, the Muscatava River up there. I went out, and the house was like 80 years old. I get out there, and I knew, okay, that old, okay, so I get out there, I'm running water, okay. I go over to the riverbank. Dye is running down to the river now, okay. I had a bad feeling about when I got there because it was like this mystery pipe sitting out of the ground, and you could just tell that there's going to be possible issues there. So, and then the dye was running down the bank. Now, everything was fine with this agent until that was her listing. So I was actually doing sewer inspections for that agent for her clients. But then this ended up where I was doing it on the other side, and it turned out to be for this. And he called me up and said, Robert, I heard you scared my client. You're scaring the clients. You're scaring the clients. The buyers. What are you scaring them? I told them that it's leaking. That's a serious problem. And I said that has to be addressed, and it's probably going to cost probably around $15,000. And they're just like 21-year-old, 22-year-old kids buying the place. Okay, you think they can afford that? No. Right? So, yeah, I have to tell these people this is your potential issue right here, and that this has to be addressed. Right? Anyway, she never dealt with me ever since. Good riddance. Good riddance, because I can't deal with agents that don't let me do my job. My job is first and foremost, and that's your job. You should be there to protect it. Anyway, either way, inspections, you shouldn't get in the way of that, in my opinion, anyway, right? As long as your inspectors know what they're talking about and stuff, you should just, And I'm there to help your clients. If you want to call me up and say, hey, Robert, I got a potential client buying a house over on Yukon Avenue or something like that, or this or that. And my knowledge of the sewers around here is like, okay, I know what kind of pipe that is over there. Here's your possible issues over there. And you just tell your client that. And ask them, hey, listen, if you bought the two roofs there or something, so you're thinking about doing that. And they go, oh, well, no, don't want to.
Thank you.
But, yeah, but then you're covered, right? Like you now have suggested, some agent, like you said, is you get it in writing, that you've actually suggested that, well, look at the one we went and did over there in Dartmouth, huh? I mean, broken pipe, a plumber had, done some work inside, hey, it looked great, all new plastic pipe inside. Unfortunately, they broke the pipe in the process and they dropped a bunch of pieces of cast iron down the sewer. Actually, I had to fish it out, I was there all morning, wasn't I?
Yeah.
I got it out though. I'm not like a MacGyver sewers, right? So we ended up getting the pieces out and whatever, and proceeded with the inspection. But this is how many all these different things can be happening in sewers. I mean, you can't consider the age, fine, the newer the sewer is, maybe the better it is, but it doesn't mean anything, right? I think, again, after this 20 years, it's a good idea to do the sewer. At least suggest to the client, here's the type of service, and this is your potential savings. And not including the cost of a sewer backup in the insurance. That's just the cost of the sewer. Repair of the sewer is like $3,000 and up. Sewer backup? Wow, once they have one of those. I just came from one there yesterday, and their whole basin is being ripped out. It's over on Chestnut over right up by across from Manor Park there. So we're all backed up and everything. I was in there last night. Now luckily they got my name from another person who had me inspect their sewer, say 5 years ago, and they weren't gonna video the sewer. They were just, the company was coming in, they were cleaning up. Nobody suggested video the sewer. But the company's coming in, cleaning up, they're gonna do all this work, probably $20,000-$30,000 worth of work. What about the sewer? What about what happened? So they got that from their friend, saying, hey, this guy videoed our sewer, he figured out what was wrong, and bang, so that's how I got my referral on that one, right? So, but, the mess alone, your insurance is going to go up, right? Your claim is probably $2,500. So it's, to me, just a peace of mind. A lot of people get just a peace of mind. Hey, at least I know I'm not walking into a sewer backup situation, right? So, yeah, so I think we cover everything on septics, and there's things that I may have skipped or whatever, but, later on, if you have any questions or whatever. Yeah.
Well, let's take it there.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
No, it was very, very
Thank you so long,
informative. I
but-
know a bit about
Yeah.
septic, but not too much. My husband was away for it, and
Oh,
I wish more people had showed up.
well, there were 7 on there.
7 on the.
How many agents, right?
Yeah.
Are right there. What do we got, over 1,000 agents in HR? How many in this office?
There's 108, but that's
That's a lot.
not
That's all over the
great.
province.
Okay.
Yeah.
In
In here, I think there's like 80.
That's still a lot.
Yeah.
Well, there was about 14 people. Yeah.
That's a good turnout.
Yeah.
Anyway, at least
There's
you
a lot
guys,
more people here yesterday.
you guys are, what was going on yesterday?
They had our office. Yeah, this place is full.
Yeah, but anyway, spread the word, try to protect the clients out there, let me protect the clients for you, we work together, right? So,
Do you have any cards?
what, pretty bad, eh? It's true, I know, okay.
Yeah.
You know what, like, seriously, just haven't had a card in 10 years. I'm not joking. That's my life, this is worst. I know it sounds ridiculous, but everybody goes online these days. And
We're
so,
really good ADD channels.
and so, yeah, but people put my name number in the phone, right? That people, saving people now, right?
Yeah.
So that's generally, if you wanted my contact information, if you wanted, you Google Detectall.ca, I have a website, Detectall. You type in pipe inspections, Dartmouth, Halifax, I'll be the first on the top of the list of people. Have a very good presence again. So, that's the website we do. For a bunch of people and all that stuff. I also do pipe rewiring with the Texas technology.
You do well on something?
Do well, I don't get set sewer with water. I don't do it.
You know.
Well,
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm there touching sewers and stuff. I don't do well. Basically just do so I was in the session, so I just do septic and sewer, don't do sewer. No well. Doesn't work. cross-contamination. Yeah. I heard of a guy who uses that, that's $20. I just don't think it's a good idea to have well, it's not all that complicated, right? Like, if I go there and do a septic inspection, you let in water anyway. So it's sort of testing the well anyway. So, that's what the